involved in a domestic violence situation in the past. And it is an outrageous situation, and I'm so glad you're addressing it.
Well, I mean, one other point that I've just noticed in this story, that the lawyer who's now acting for the grandparents pro bono has basically said that social workers are pursuing adoption targets that generate income. Now, that's disgusting.
Yes, there's an outsourcing of children's services. It really needs to be looked into. And this is a business. Our children are being fostered and adopted as a business. And that is a reality. That's not conspiracy theory. That's conspiracy fact. And what we now know, without a shadow of a doubt, is that what we need to do as a country is we need to invest in keeping families together rather than tearing them apart. Children are not always better off in care. In fact, we've seen the evidence that absolutely they're not. We can look at the grooming gangs that have taken place towards children in care. Children have been prostituted for a number of years in care. There's children that go missing in care, a third of which never returned. So this is, as I say, a hornet's nest. This is not as unusual a situation as it may appear on the surface, but I am so glad it's finally getting the attention it needs.
What happens on July the 31st when the child, as I understand it from what I've read, will be adopted by people, obviously, that we don't know the identity of? What will she be told about her grandparents? Because, I mean, there's a picture here in the paper of her sitting with her grandfather. I mean, effectively, they will be dead to her.
Well, that is the case. That's exactly it. I know one grandmother who has fought, and actually she's won. It's amazing. But for 3 years, she was only allowed to see her granddaughter once a year. She wasn't allowed to take any pictures with her child, and with her grandchild, and she wasn't even allowed to hug her grandchild at the contact centre meeting. So essentially, the grandparents ceased to exist, and that is what happens. It's almost like the child's previous life is being erased, which is contrary to everything we know about raising children and child development. We need to have a knowledge of where we come from in order to be able to progress and develop. And the idea here seems to be that we scratch everything that occurred before, and it's like the child has a completely new life and is expected to adjust to that. And nobody should be put through that at all. Not grandparents, not close family members, and certainly not the children.
Sonia, thank you so much. That's Sonia Poulton, broadcaster and journalist. She's been campaigning against forced adoption. All power to her, elbow on that. You know, I only ever knew one of my grandparents, my paternal grandmother. She died when I was 17. I never knew any of my other grandparents. I would not be sitting in this studio today without the influence of my grandmother.